Hi, I'm Rochelle J, and I'm here to talk about beads, my favorite subject. I hope it's yours too. I love little beads, big beads, shiny beads, matte beads, and one of my favorite things is multiple hole beads. You might know right angle weave already with regular beads, seed beads. Today we're going to use multiple hole beads with the right angle weave stitch. The nice thing about it, you can use any bead you want. This is the Starman gem duos, and they have 2 holes, one on each side, and it's a really neat diamond shape. So the bottom is flat, the top is domed, and so you get a really neat diamond pattern. You can also use a cabochon, which is round on the top, flat on the bottom, and then you get a really beautiful dome pattern. This nice pattern is really easy to do with any of your beads that you've got. So we'll just start from the beginning and follow along, and let's get started. I'm using a Toho 1G thread today. It is a little bit stretchy, so then you can maneuver your pattern just like you like it. I thread my needle, and we're using Toho size 11 needles today. When you're using a 2-hole bead, you go at funny different angles. So we really like to use a slightly flexible needle, but something that will go through as many times as you like. And so we also, in between each bead, we are using Toho Perma-Finish beads. It's a size 11 seed bead, and what is nice about the seed beads is they have the Perma-Finish coating on it, so then it won't peel off, chip off, rub off, and then it's a stable galvanized bead. On the very end, we're using the Toho 6-0 Demi Perma-Finish beads. They just came out on the market in the new gold and silver Perma-Finish galvanized. So the Toho Demi bead is a large hole bead which has a unique shape because it is exactly cut in half, so it looks like a spacer bead. So therefore all your different clasps connect on it easily, and it works really good to start and end every single project. So I have my gem duos here, and I'm lining them all up. Since I'm using a 2-hole bead, you want to make sure that all your beads are 2 holes are open, and so that none of them are clogged. So I'm going to set them all up on my tray just like I'm going to use them. And so that means they are with the hole side by side with the top up. If you prepare your workstation all nice and neat, then it's really easy not to get messed up. In this pattern, we use one of the Toho 11-0 seed beads in between each 2-hole bead, and so we get a really nice spacing. So what we're going to do is create this beautiful core for each bracelet, which has demis on the very end and then one 11-0 seed bead next to each gem duo. And so how we begin is we take 5 feet of thread, and I usually work right off my bobbin. We're going to need 10 feet of thread for this project, so you could either wrap your extra thread around a little piece of cardboard to keep it all neat and tidy while you're still working, and then you have the first 5 feet of thread that you're working with. So, or just work straight off your bobbin. Pull 5 feet of thread and thread your needle, and then to start with, you are going to pick up 1 Demi 6-0 bead, 1 Toho 11-0 bead, then you're going to go through the right hole of your gem duo. If we're going to move in a clockwise direction, then we're always going to go through the right hole of the bead. It's very consistent, so then you never get messed up. So then after your gem duo, you pick up 1 11-0 and 2 more demis. We're going to slide all of our beads down on our thread so that they're all right next to each other. Then you're going to circle around and pass through all the beads again. So this is the beginning of your bracelet. So you're going to be connecting your jump rings and your clasp onto these demis right here. Then we're going to work off of the gem duo. So we just met our tail. We went through here twice. So just tie a simple knot with your tail just to keep your tension good. So it doesn't have to be a real major knot, just a right over left just to keep it taut. Then we're going to move forward through the demi, the 11-0, and the first hole of the diamond that you just came out of. And so that's how the end is going to look. You'll attach your jump rings here, and now we're going to move forward. So we need to get to the other hole here of the gem duo. So just jump forward and go through the hole going the other direction. So first we circled clockwise, now we moved forward and we just moved counterclockwise to go through that hole. Now we're going to start again and repeat the same 3 bead addition. So we're going to add 1 11-0, we're going to add a gem duo and 11-0 and a gem duo. Remember, you're going through the right hole when we're moving clockwise. And so each time, if they're laid out on your station correctly, then they're easy to pick up. So then you'll slide your beads all the way down right next to it. That way you can see if they're all facing upright to make sure they're going the right direction. And then we're going to pass through them all again. I usually hold the thread around my fingers so that I keep it out of my way and I can control my tension. And then I'll just place the beads on the needle and slide it all the way through while pinching the gem duos. That way they sit right in place. And so we're going to pass through the gem duo that's right next to us and move forward. And we'll go through 2 more gem duos to exit the second gem duo that we added in this sequence. Since the holes are a little bit angled, you can rotate your work just fine so that you can maneuver through the beads. Remember, the dome is always on the top, the flat side of the gem duo is always on the bottom, so that way you're oriented correctly to always have it up. So we just made a clockwise circle to the right. Now we're going to jump to the open hole and move to the left. Now we're going to repeat that over and over and over again to the length that you'd like your bracelet. So add 1 11-0, a gem duo on the right hole, an 11-0, a gem duo on the right hole, an 11-0, a gem duo, and an 11-0. Slide all your beads down again so that it's right where you can see and you've got all your beads in place, and just wrap it around your finger to maintain a little bit of tension. You're going to go through each hole that you just went through, and when you pull it towards yourself. That way the beads will sit at 90-degree angles and form that little T. So the second bead that you add in the 3 bead set is always going to be in the center. So that's the bead you're always going to exit out of to move forward. Because you'll jump to the open hole and then you'll move forward. Then you'll just repeat as many times as you like. So when you think you're getting close to the end of how long you're going to want it, I usually just move it onto my mat which has a ruler on it so that I can measure. The end is always going to have a clasp on here, but at the moment I'm up to about 5 3/8, so I need it a little longer. I usually go to about 6 1/2. So we'll add another couple segments to then finish this off. So all you're going to do, remember, is repeat as many times as you want, and you're going to go through the right hole of your gem duo and add an 11/0 in between. Pull it all down and then slide through all your beads again. Each core will be about 6 1/2, 7 1/2 inches long, and then you're going to add again on this end the demis so that you can attach your clasp. So that now it's the length that I want it. I'm going to add the very end, which is just like the beginning. So we jump to the open hole, and then you're going to add 1 11/0, and this time you'll add 3 of the demis. Usually you'll attach the jump ring to the center of that demi. So we slide them all down. I just wrap the thread around my finger to keep it out of the way, pass through them all again, and that way you now have your demis right on the end so that you can attach. And just go through that one more time to secure it so that you've got it nice and tight and you can attach your clasp to it. Now we want to add, there is our center core. This is what we want our bracelet to look like, and on the edge we are going to add 1 4mm fire polish all the way across the edge. So we jump back down to the bottom hole where we came from of our gem duo and then go through the 11/0 just after it. Now the size of the bead you're working with, you want to accent the edge. So the gem duo, I'm going to add 3 11/0s and then jump to the open hole of this side bead. That way we have a really nice accent on the end. So we're going to add fire polish, 4mm check fire polish in between each of these gem duo holes all along the edge. So I add 1 11/0 and a fire polish and an 11/0, and then I'll pop through the open hole of the next gem duo along the line. If it gets caught around your finger, don't worry. This is a very loose tension stitch. You don't want to drag the thread really harshly across the check beads. So just be very gentle, and you're going to just pass through the beads multiple times instead of pulling really taut. So we'll just add 1 fire polish with an 11/0 on each side of it in between each of these gem duos, and you'll just repeat that all the way down, and then at the end you'll pass through and repeat it on the other side. And you'll repeat it again and again and again so that it's filled in. And that's what the tail thread is for. You're going to repeat with your tail thread all around it again as well so that it gets stronger and stronger, and then you feel comfortable wearing it. If you're using a different shape bead, like a cabochon, these are really fun because they lay flat against your skin and then they have a wonderful dome. And so I really like the cabochons a lot. They're just a little larger and a little heavier, so when you are working with them, make sure you have them laid out correctly so that the holes are in front of you. So you're always going to go through the right hole of the bead and then add 1 in between. So make sure they're laid right on your station. That way you'll always pick them up correctly. And so, like I said, this pattern is more a stitch basically, so you can do it with anything. You just add 3 beads with 1 11/0 in between each one, slide it down to where you're at, and then pass through them all again. So if it's a little bit larger bead, you're going to need to place them with your fingers onto your needle. So using a regular needle or a long needle is actually easier for this stitch than a short needle. Then hold them all in place while you pull it towards yourself, and it'll pull taut and lay straight. Then pass through 1 bead at a time. These beads are 6 millimeters long, so don't worry about cutting angles. You won't be able to do that. You'll only be able to pass through 1 bead at a time. So it's a really easy, repetitive stitch that works with anything. And then when you're jumping to the open hole, it's exactly the same. So if you go through the right hole of the bead, you're circling clockwise, all your beads will lay correctly. If you want to work with something smaller, like a checkmate diamond, these beads are really neat because they have a diamond in both directions. And so when they lay together, they have a unique little facet on the top. So then when you add the fire polish in there next to it, it adds a really neat dimension. It lays a little flatter. They are uniform, so there's no real top or bottom. There's just a right and a left. So after you're done with your core, you'll add the perimeter with a fire polish in between each one afterwards, and then you'll add the clasp on the end. And so the easy way to add your clasp is to just take a jump ring. I'll get that out of the way here. And since the Demis are so large, the jump ring is going to fit right on the end there. And so it's really easy to take your pliers, open up your jump ring, hook it onto the Demi, and slide it in. You just got to make sure that your jump ring is the correct size. So this one, see, that one's too big. We can't use that one. We need to use a normal size jump ring. Then we're going to add our clasp onto our jump ring. And we'll get it all closed tight. And there you go. So you can use any clasp you'd like. There is no rhyme or reason to what you need to do, what you have to do. It's up to you to add your own personal style to my design. And like I said, it works with any 2-hole, 3-hole, 4-hole bead. So if you didn't know what to do with those beads you've got laying in your stash, it's a really simple project and you can adapt it to anything. Just use 1 11/0 in between each bead and you'll be able to maintain consistent spacing.